Hello, we have got a unheard of writer today with us. No comic person will ever know. He's a spring chicken.
Yeah.
Chuck is listed in the Guinness Book of World Records as the most prolific comic book writer of all time.
Yeah, just a young kid with a dream. So.
Don't give up. Yes. Chuck actually, and that is not a joke for anybody who does not know, Chuck is actually in the Guinness Book of World Records for that.
Yep.
So he is Mr. Prolific, Professor Prolific.
Chuck, I'd like to start with asking you, what is your view from the clouds of the comic book industry today?
It's running off in every possible imaginable direction. It's a future none of us could foresee. We've gone like the music industry in the early 2000s. It's all a niche market. It's garage band comics.
Yeah,
and that's what's going to rule the future for the time being, anyway.
So you would say the prognosis for the big two is bleak.
Yeah. I see them as turning into licensing houses. I mean, Marvel and DC will be like the Rather Group. They'll just rent their stuff out to somebody else to do.
Well, a number of reasons for that: collapsing distribution system, inability to get product to market. But there's also the choices the big two have made in editorial content. Would you care to comment on that?
Well, editorial staffing as well. I mean, that's it like all of these woke corporations, it starts in the HR department, and they hired, these, young go-getter careerists who are not comic book lifers to run the comic book business. And these people know nothing about comics. Yeah, I mean, the last generation of actual comic book lifers knew nothing about comics either. And this group knows less.
Well, we had editors like Archie Goodwin and Denny O'Neil who came up writing comics and loving comics. You question the decisions these companies are making. It's almost as if they don't care whether they garner new readers or even old readers. When you look at the editorial decisions they're making, especially DC regarding all their legacy characters, you have to ask yourself, why are they doing this? Do they no longer care about entertainment?
Well, it wasn't just editors. I mean, you had Jeanette Kahn, Paul Levitz, Jim Shooter, Stan Lee, Tom DeFalco. They cared about the future of these companies. They cared. They jealously guarded the reputations of these characters to make sure that they lasted for the next generation. This outfit, they simply don't care. Working at Marvel and DC is a resume enhancer for when they apply for a job at Vanity Fair or MTV. Yeah. So there's nothing in this for them. So they're just whatever they can get. Like, look at this. Look at how many Twitter hits I got when I turned, Captain Potato Salad into a bisexual. And you can. It's so transparent that this is what they're about. Like I said, they're careerists and they're tourists.
Chuck, have you purchased any titles from the big two in the last couple of years?
Nothing that wasn't 30 or 40 years old.
They no longer send you books, do they?
Oh, no, I haven't seen comps in ages. Nobody sends comps.
Yeah. Not even Bang Conquest? You didn't pick that up?
They did send comps to that. And they'll send if they reprint something of mine. I just got some, Gundus omnibus of No Man's Land recently. So if I worked on it, I'll get it. But I don't see. Yeah, and people say, well, do you read current comics? Not since they stopped coming free in the mail.
Right. I used to go to the comic shop religiously on every Wednesday and scan the titles and pick them up. But somewhere along the line, I fell out of the habit. And it wasn't just because the comics were no longer interested me. It's just my changing tastes.
Yeah. But now there's nothing. I mean, the only current comic I think I follow, and it's barely current because of their problems. I like that Nora's saga from Allegiance.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the best comics I've seen in a long time. But there's nothing there for us, and that, unfortunately, there's nothing there for tens of millions of other readers either, because they've sort of left or gotten out of the habit of buying comics regularly.
Well, I find that my path forward lies through crowdfunding, and we've done a number of titles, including Thin Blue Line, which is up right now on Kickstarter, and we plan a whole bunch more. But as far as the major companies, I did write The Saints for Allegiance, and they just shipped the first book. But other than that, I see nothing for me in the legacy publishers for a number of reasons. But I just wonder, Chuck, how many titles are you writing now, and how are they being distributed? Because I know you don't run your own crowdfunders. I know you work with Richard Meyer a lot, and I've worked with Richard myself. But how many titles are you working on right now?
Well, most of my work is for Arctoons, and it's a free digital service. If you go to archaven.com, I think you've got the link here.
Right.
And they're weekly installments, but they might be weekly installments like 10 panels. So,
right.
So I'm writing a lot of different stuff because that's easy to keep up with for me. I write a couple of days and I can get months and months ahead of my artists. So
you're not thinking in terms of a 24-page story?
No, I'm thinking in terms of basically writing for a trade. And by that, I mean the right way to write for a trade, thinking of it as a feature film. And so, yeah, it's a shorter form in service to a longer form.
How many titles do you have up on Archaven now?
My main ones are My Sister Suprema, Something Big. I also have Avalon, Alt Hero Q, and then I'm co-writing with Vox Day. I'm co-writing Silencioso, Midnight's War, and I'm adapting his Throne of Bones. And I've probably got a couple other things up there too.
Yeah, because that's only 7 titles, Chuck.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, it's weekly installments. I'm writing the equivalent of like 10 pages a month on each one of them.
How many pages do you write in a day?
I used to think 8 was my minimum. Now it's 5 pages is my minimum. And if I write beyond that, and I only went down to 5 because so much of this job now is doing social media and doing things like this and all, it takes up more time. I didn't used to have to do my own marketing, but now I do. Yeah. So 5 pages a day. If I write more than that, hooray for me. But 5 pages a day and I can keep up.
Well, one thing that disturbs me is that you're turning out novels with frightening regularity, Chuck. And I don't like that because I've been falling behind. But you're about to launch a new Levon novel, right? Or is it out already?
No, it's not out yet.
That's the second of a 2-parter, because I read the previous one, which was about child molesters.
Right. Well, it wasn't. You make it sound like I wrote a novel about child molesters.
Okay, great.
I wrote a novel about a guy who kills child molesters.
All right, let's clarify that. And once again, it made me ill to read your prose, Chuck, because it was so well done and hard hitting, and I couldn't put it down till I finished it. And I resent that very much, Chuck, because I need my rest.
Hey, look, I've been spending my whole career trying to keep up with you. You set that bar with Nexus, and I've been trying to keep up with that all this time. So
Monsieur is too kind. Dark Horse, they wanted more Nexus, but they priced it out and they can't make any money at it. So we're going the crowdfunding route with Nexus. And I think it's going to shoot through the roof because, as you know, we are preaching to a completely different audience.
Exactly. We're preaching to those who were left behind by the woke comic media as it is now, the big corporate comics. Well, the world needs more Nexus.
Yeah, I was going to say, too, one of the things that a lot of people kind of don't necessarily know that has been interesting is some of the people have been posting on Mike's thing about Nexus are people that like lived in Russia and the Ukraine and stuff like that. That Nexus kind of touches on some of the communism and things like that, and they're like, but they never got to see it before, you know, back when it was originally out. So they're like, a lot of them are kind of freaking out, and they're like, oh man, this is awesome. We would have ate this up, like if we could have, you know, got our hands on it and everything. And so there's kind of cool stuff like that's neat. To be
that's the silver lining of what's happening now is with crowdfunding and with digital comics like Arctoons, we have a global reach we never had before. I mean, we have a global reach. I mean, Arctoons has a potential global reach greater than DC and Marvel.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So,
well, you just passed 4 million. Was it views or viewers?
4 million views.
Yeah.
So, and you know, we just got started in April, and, you know, it's hard getting out of your own neighborhood and promoting. I mean, they don't make it easy to promote this stuff and reach people. I mean, I have people that I've known for years that I'm Facebook friends with, constant communication with. They're like, oh, hey, you're doing these digital comics. I said, yeah, I've been doing them for like, you know, 8 months. And you're just hearing about it now. It's so hard to break through. They just, you know, they take you from a fire hose to a drinking straw.
Well, you're not doing that for free. Is it worth your while?
Yeah, because I'm talking to Hollywood producers and gaming people and stuff like that. It's spinning the wheel. I mean, My Sister Supreme I've had in my head for 15 years. I could never interest anybody in it. And it's like our biggest hit on Arctoons. It's gaining readers, you know, exponentially. And I knew it would. What?
Would you call that manga?
Yeah, it's manga influenced in the way that the story's told. You know, and obviously Anthony is leaning toward a manga-esque style. He uses a lot of manga tropes and gimmicks in the art and stuff. But, you know, it's more manga at the heart of it, that it's universally appealing, and the not you know, decompressed way it's told, but in the more deliberate pacing than comic books allow.
Right. Is
there any plan to turn these digital book comics into hard copies?
Yeah, well, you know, Vox right now is all digital. He's you know, holding off on the print aspect of it. He's got all the deals in place for distribution and everything. It's just right now it's just getting the material out there and getting attention. Because like I said, it's a global thing. Once you go to print, it's one language at a time. And now you're slow walking again. You know, we're a NASCAR now. We're just making the laps, you know, as fast as we can.
I see you have a couple of Westerns out that you've published under your own imprint.
Actually, they're through Vox too, Castalia House. I originally wrote them to go through Wolfpack, and Wolfpack said they were too violent.
Wow.
So I offered them to. I was complaining to Vox about it. He says, "Well, I'll publish them." And so yeah, they're coming out through him. So we'll you know, it's my first prose work through Castalia.
Does he have a United States distributorship?
Oh yeah, he's got all that locked up.
For all of the haters of Vox, do you want to say anything about like what it's like working with him or whatever, or why you choose to?
Well, I choose to because, you know, he reached out to me. You know, for all the haters who go, you shouldn't work with people like Vox and you shouldn't work for people like Richard Meyer. And I says, well, find me a commie that you approve of who will pay me to write comics and I'll do it. Yeah. You know, it's like it's like, oh, you should go work at Home Depot and not do comics at all, you know. Yeah. And then they go, well, Vox said this and Vox said that. And it's like, well, first of all, half of what you told me Vox said he never said. Yeah. And the rest, it's outrageous. But Vox is outrageous. He has some outrageous opinions, but they're just opinions. And a lot of times he's simply reporting facts that he's dug up. You know, he has a different worldview than I do, but the guy's not a hateful guy. You know, he's the nicest guy in the world. I mean, he's let me out of contracts, and we had contracts. Vox, I signed this contract with you, but I got offered a better deal. Yeah, go take it. So he's probably the least uptight guy I've ever worked for in comics.
Yeah. Well, what's the rap against Richard? I mean, I don't understand why Richard Meyer is controversial at all. I just don't. He's never said anything about racism or anything. And he makes fun of contemporary comics. Maybe that's it.
He dared to criticize Mark Waid. That's what happened there. So.
I've had my own run-ins with the delightful Mark Waid.
Oh, yeah.
It's so weird how people will pick and choose stuff and then they'll just want to crucify him over it. I mean, it's just like Gandhi. Gandhi said things that people say are racist, not like he didn't have reasons for why he had the opinion of because the way stuff was affecting like his country. But then they like disregard all the other good stuff that, Gandhi said or did. And they do that with everybody nowadays. It's like, man,
Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah,
George Washington, Lincoln, tearing down their statues.
Yeah, and it's just, and that's the thing, like that with the companies and stuff like that. Like we can't control what the people that own the companies say or do, and but at the same time too, if they give us a platform to say something that we want to say, that's
Vox has never told me what to write.
Right.
He's never censored anything I've done. We've discussed things, but I mean, I've read a lot of what he wrote, and it's like they're uncomfortable truths for the most part. Things he's written, it's like, well, I really didn't want to think of that way, but that's a way of looking at it. But it's not out of hate or malice or anything like that. It's just this guy's just reporting. And the thing is, his main thing. Oh, he's got a lot of main things, but one of them is national identity and national sovereignty. And it's like, okay, Japan should maintain a Japanese culture. That's a good thing.
Right.
But they want to put it, of course, in terms of white supremacy. And it's like, no,
Evan,
you have a
Syatt,
culture. Huh?
Evan Syatt has written a book called The Woke Supremacy, which is brilliant. And I can't recommend it highly enough. It explains exactly everything that's going on right now. And one of the things about the book is a brilliant defense of nationalism, which is in effect a defense of decentralization and local decision-making. Right. And that's why they're warning against this one world government, which our elites are pushing for like rabid dogs, so that they can enrich themselves at public expense, enjoy perks the average person doesn't have, and punish their enemies. They never say that. They say it's going to lead to a new ideal society where everybody will prosper. But that's not it. It's always this greater centralization and centralization of power and the growth of government, which is now obscene and grotesque. It's like a cancer that's taken over this country. I don't think we can ever reduce the size of this government, barring some unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah, it's ask the Lakota Sioux, ask the Apache, ask the Navajo how, their deals with the government work out, and the importance of maintaining your heritage, and against all odds. I mean, years ago, they started this campaign because people in Appalachia weren't taking enough welfare or food stamps. They weren't taking the amount the government thought they should take. And they literally said in government documents, we have to break their mountain pride.
Wow.
It's like, who wants leadership like that? You're going to break my pride? You're going to take away who I am in order to, come feed at the trough. I mean, it's a horrible. And how are they going to shrink it? I don't know. I mean, there's got to be some pushback. I mean, the last time a government agency shut down was when the public pushed back against the New Deal, and they shut down the National Recovery Administration and the Works Project Administration and the CCC because the people of this country saw it as fascist, and they didn't want it. And that's my greatest hope is all this crap they're pushing on us. And it's obvious it's not sticking. Nobody's buying this.
I know.
Nobody wants this. But it's like, how far are they going to push this? What's the next disaster? what's the next time we have to stay home because of global warming? Or our business gets shut down over global warming, or we have to wear masks for global warming.
I find these issues sometimes an overwhelming temptation to write about them, but I have to be careful where I do, because I'm not a polemicist. And my first goal, as always, is to entertain. But there are ways to do it. And I think we've both done that.
Yeah.
Right now, the Punisher is in the news because they're in the process of neutering him again. And I think this latest move is asinine, to have him head up some secret society, because the Punisher functions best when he's a lone wolf in the real world, not fighting with aliens or superheroes.
Yeah, I mean, when you wrote him, you sort of showed me the way on that character. I mean, I loved the character, and I liked writing him, but I was so often disappointed with the way he was written. And then you got him, and you wrote that story that I've recounted a million times about where the Punisher goes to all of his, support crew, and none of them can help him with a particular thing. And he keeps telling them, what good are you? What use are you to me? And I'm like, whoa, that's who this guy is. These people aren't his friends.
Yeah.
He's using them because, and he doesn't, in the end, he doesn't need them. They just make things a little easier. The problem is, and I know, Mike, you'll agree with me, that most of these editors, most of these writers, they do not understand this character at all. They have no understanding.
No, and I don't think they understand comics either.
In general, yeah. but I mean, making Frank the leader of a bunch of ninjas and have him carrying samurai swords and stuff. I mean, God, it's so stupid.
I know. And again, we have to go back to the fact that these editors and the writers that they're hiring can't really do their jobs. I mean, they've lost sight of the fact that people buy comics to be entertained.
Yeah.
They want to read that story and think, wow, that's a great story. That was exciting. I'd like to see what happens next, which is the essential question in all fiction. What happens next? And you have to care about the protagonist to turn the page. And I think that what they're doing now is and tell me if you agree with this, but they seem to be hiring people with a political agenda to push wokeness. And it's just baffling to me, because the public has spoken again and again that they don't want it.
Well,
and they're ignoring the dwindling circulation figures.
They want woke characters, but when they do a woke character, they're so unappealing. I mean, comic book superheroes, and I'll throw even the Punisher in there. These are wish fulfillment characters. These are characters you're like, wow, if only I was the Hulk. Only if I could be Superman right now, what I would do. And you put yourself in their place. Well, who wants a wish fulfillment character who's a big whiny crybaby who wets his pants? Nobody wants to. It's like they don't understand what this genre is, and they want to make it into something of their own, and they want to tear these heroes down. And it started decades ago with writers who couldn't write heroic fiction. So they had no idea how to do it, and found it distasteful. And they sort of altered the whole media, the whole genre for themselves to suit their talents or their worldview. And we're just seeing the end result of that. Now it's like, I hate fur, so I'm going to have a hero who hates fur. Now you did it with Badger, and it was fun and entertaining, and you could agree with the Badger or not agree. You never told us what to think about it. And that was fun. It's like, once upon a time they made a black woman head of the X-Men, and I'm reading the comic going, hey, I like this character. This is cool. This seems like a natural progression.
Was it Storm?
Storm. Yeah.
A Storm. And then, now today it would be a black woman is leader of the X-Men. If you don't like it, you're a racist.
Yeah.
And she's a cardboard cutout character with no personality, but you have to love her. It's like, no.
We've all seen those pages from modern comics that consists of huge blocks of text, like apartments in the Soviet Union, or the Hong Kong high rises with these bleak concrete structures that appear on the page, and and the huge blocks of text are usually a gauntlet thrown down to say, this is how I roll. If you don't like it, clear out. And
right.
And that's ignoring so many rules about comics. The first rule is to entertain. The second is show, don't tell. And I'm surprised. And, they hire people who have visual experience, like John Ridley. His latest Superman is getting a lot of flack. And you know why. You've seen those stories, haven't you?
Yeah.
And it's just bewildering to me that a guy who makes movies for a living doesn't understand show, don't tell.
Well, I don't think they understand the comic medium. I mean, I don't understand how you write screenplays. I mean, I understand how movies work, but when I go to write a screenplay, I'm like a room full of chimpanzees trying to do Hamlet. It's a medium that makes no sense to me. The screenplay medium, the film medium, I mean, if I could get down on a screenplay, the brilliant dialogue I think of when I'm in the shower.
Right.
But I never can. By the time I get down to write, it's like, this sounds stupid. If this came out of an actor's mouth, it would sound moronic. Whereas in a comic book, it's fine. Because I'm a comic book writer. I mean, what can I do? I can't get away from that. But it's hard to go to the other way too. What?
Do you carry a pad and pen with you at all times?
No, I should, but I don't. It's a habit.
Not in the shower, Mike. Gosh.
No, I don't.
You can take your electronic pad into the shower. No, I do that too, so that those moments don't slip by.
Yeah. I don't.
And another little hint is, if you're in the shower and you think of a brilliant bit of dialogue, say it out loud, because that will fix it in your memory long enough for you to get out, dry off, and write it down. Yeah,
I should, because man, I'm David Mamet in the shower.
One thing I would love to see you guys do, if you guys ever had the time, would be to co-write something where it's like one character and you try to put the other writer in a box he can't get out of.
Well, I the first part of your statement is true, because I've been trying to think of a plot where we could combine Josh Pratt and Levon Cade in one story. And one of these days I'm going to come up with it, or else I'm going to bug Chuck and say, Chuck, you come up with it. You come up with it. and then we'll do it, because I would love to do that.
Yeah, maybe we need to start with the old comics tradition of like a soft crossover scene in one of the novels, and then move on from there. Like they get an intro, like Human Torch meeting the fake Captain America.
Well, I'm glad you just said that, because I'm about to begin another biker novel, and I think that's a little flavor I can throw in there. I'll check with you, of course.
Yeah, because I mean, I have Levon every once in a while make sort of obscure references to characters from my Bad Time series. So it's like for people reading both, it's an Easter egg. So yeah, something like that.
What was your first novel that you did?
I wrote a series of SEAL Team's 6 novels for Dynamite. That was my first. Basically, Dynamite paid me to learn how to write novels.
They publish novels?
They started with me. I don't know if they still do it, but they wanted something to market. The day after Bin Laden was shot, I hear from Nikki, could you write a SEAL Team 6 now? Because they couldn't get a comic to market in time for Christmas. But they could get a novel to market in time for Christmas.
Is Dynamite still open to your writing?
No, I don't. I didn't really like the deals I got there as far as royalties and stuff. Because those books sold great, but I could never pin them down on numbers. I wasn't recompensed the way I thought I should be. I thought, well, I'm going to just start doing this on my own. And I got in at the tail end of the ebook gold rush. When they hired me, I had 30 days to write the novel.
Wow.
And I'd never written one. And so one of their editors called and said, well, you send us an outline. And I said, you can have an outline or you can have a novel, but you can't have both. I said, I'm already writing. Yeah. And I have no idea where it's going. I don't have time to stop and write an outline. I got 30 days to write a novel.
Did they give you an advance?
Yeah. But, the thing is that one of the, this is tales out of school, but one of the secretaries at the company really loved the books and she loved my writing. And she sort of accidentally sent me the sales figures. And I'm like, holy crap. These things, I'm holding this company up. I'm the most
Yeah.
profitable thing they have, and then it's like, give me a little bit more money. It's like, and, it's comics. So there's no money. We're barely keeping the doors open.
Yeah, if you can sell them, it's like the profit margin on novels is a lot better than comics.
Oh yeah, yeah. They don't cost anything to produce. It's just sweat equity.
Yeah,
that's why crowdfunding is such a boon, because people are willing to lay out $25 for a good comic. But it's got to be good. And I know a lot of people have been disappointed by crowdfunding in the past because the product doesn't ship for 2 years, and some people never fulfill their projects,
right.
and rather than refund the money, they just kind of disappear off social media.
Yeah, yeah, and that's it. It's like when a politician leaves office, all their crimes are forgiven. It's like they're gone. We can't find them. Oh well. I mean, that's like more and more crowdfunding things I'm on are waiting until the project is complete before they start the campaign. I mean, I'm working on something now with Richard, and we're waiting till it's all done, and it can ship in 2 weeks. So,
well, that's what's cool about you doing the your weekly stuff with Archaven and everything is being able to get stuff out there on a regular basis, because it's that's the other bad thing about doing crowdfunding is it's like you can have one issue and then 6 months later maybe another one, and at least you have the weekly, which is it's funny. It's almost like going back in time with the comic strips and the newspapers where you have to crank out so much.
Yeah, we're very much looking at it that way. I mean, I look at my weekly installments like a Sunday comic strip. And we're doing more like daily format stuff, because the weird thing is we're finding out the shorter the episode is, the more people view it. So we're thinking eventually we're going to be like twice a week episodes.
Well, when you say short, do you mean you're putting up like 6 panels twice a week?
Yeah, I mean we've got ones that are like 2 panels, 4 panels, and they're invariably our most popular ones.
Yep.
Jeez, I got to get,
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that on Webtoons and some other things too. Yeah, the ones that only have 2 or 3 panels, man, they get a lot of views.
Yeah, and it's so I mean that's why I've shortened all of mine. It's frustrating to me, and then people will say, "Well, I love the series, but the episodes are so short," and I'm like, "Well, the public has spoken."
Yeah,
like let a bunch of episodes bank then, and don't read it for a month.
Well, so if I go to Archaven now and I go to one of your titles, I can begin at the beginning, right? And so if I wait long enough, I'll be looking at 50 or 100 pages.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, right now you can read the equivalent of like an issue and a half of My Sister Suprema if it was a regular comic book. Yeah. But when people say they're too short, well, that's a good thing from my
right.
I wanted more. Yeah, okay, that's good. That's good. I want you to want more.
Yeah, and it's probably has a lot to do with the medium, because let's face it, the online readers have a short attention span. It's one thing that the web has done is it's shortened everybody's attention span.
Yeah, and the thing is, you get an email. There's a new episode. Oh, go do the episode. Now you might be in line at the bank.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. It's also the time when people are reading.
Right.
Yeah, because some people will be, whatever, when they're leaving the gym or whatever it is, and they'll just jump on for a couple seconds and read the new episode or whatever, and that's
Netflix.
Yeah.
Did you watch Don't Look Up?
I haven't watched it yet. It's on my list.
Jeff, did you see it?
I did not. I've heard about it.
Well, I recommend it. I thought it was very funny.
Well, you've never been wrong.
It wanted to be all things to all people, but it was enough right things to me that I laughed. I laughed out loud, and without giving anything really away about the movie, there's one throwaway scene where the camera's panning around the Oval Office, and it goes right by this photograph of the president, played by Meryl Streep, posing with Steven Seagal, and there's no explanation there. But I mean, when I saw that, I bust out laughing.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check that one out.
Looks like it could be funny for people with different points of view and things, just because of the absurdity of.
Yeah, it's a scattershot satire, but because it is a scattershot, they hit a bunch of targets.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with it as long as they're mocking everybody.
They were. I mean, people say, well, this was all written by liberals too. I don't see it. I mean, there's a character in there that seems to be a stand-in for Fauci. A lot of people say, well, he's actually a stand-in for Bill Gates, whatever. But he's a really creepy character, and as such, he's pretty funny.
Yeah, well, after the fact, they say a lot of stuff. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
I watched that Squid Game, and the creator of it, when it's all said and done with, and they've made all their money, he goes, "Oh, I based the bad guy on Trump."
Yeah.
You based the bad guy, who's like a doddering, often incoherent, really old guy, on Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're just trying to sweep up the last few people who haven't watched it.
A young woman who smuggled that into Korea has been sentenced to death.
Wow.
And that I don't know how many people know, but Chuck has also written a lot of Simpsons comics, which they're kind of the same thing too. Like they're an equal opportunity offender, or whatever you want to call it. Where they'll pick and they'll poke at anything, and it's written by conservatives and liberals and all kinds of people. But
yeah, the only time they censored a gag of mine, they let me get away with murder when I wrote those comics, because I was hard on a lot of people. And the one time they censored me was they were in the Amazon jungle, and Lisa comes upon these people cutting down the rainforest. And she's lecturing them on global warming and not cutting down the rainforest. And while she's lecturing them, the forest is regrowing behind her.
Yeah.
They said, no, we're not going to do that.
What's the status of the Levon K TV show?
It's kind of dead in the water. COVID and wokeism. Trying to get together a show that's primarily about a white guy is a tough sell now in Hollywood.
Yeah.
We're looking at this Jack Reacher show to see how well it does. And if that does well, I mean, Levon K's, the skids are greased. We need another Jack Reacher. So
I see where Stallone just agreed to participate in a television drama.
Yeah. Should be interesting. It's I forget which one it was. It was an interesting project.
Well, let's take a look here. And he's 75 years old.
Yeah.
Did you guys see this stuff about him being a painter?
No.
And selling his paintings?
No.
They said, I think it was like something like he painted like something of Rocky before he actually filmed it or wrote it or something.
It's possible.
It was like, and they had pictures. They said, I guess it was because they had him so typecast and everything, like he was hiding that he was a painter until recently, and something did a big write up about it and showed him like painting and stuff. I was like, wow, that's breaking some stereotypes right there.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, these guys hide this stuff. I mean, John Wayne hid the fact that he was like a great chess player.
Yeah,
because he thought this would separate him from the common man.
Right.
Stallone's new series is called Kansas City. More often creative people explode in all directions. Joni Mitchell is a pretty good painter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so are any number of actors and singers that also paint.
He's a workaholic. He's always looking for something to do. I mean, he wrote about 3 episodes of Levon during the pandemic. He was sending them to me.
Were they adaptations of the novels?
They were faithful adaptations. I just made a few suggestions that, Florida stuff that he didn't know. Of course, he's a Florida native now. He's living here, but he didn't know this stuff because he didn't spend time out in the Florida wilderness.
Who would play Levon?
Lucas Black was my prime pick. I don't like playing the casting game, but Lucas Black, he's from Alabama. I think he's a terrific actor, and I think he's totally underused. He's got this Steve McQueen vibe to him. For those of you who don't remember him, he was the kid in the third Fast and the Furious movie.
Oh,
He's only 5'9", Chuck.
Oh, come on. Who cares?
Well, he could wear lifts.
I mean, Schwarzenegger's only 6 foot. I met him. I was taller than him. I'm like, but he looks like, he's 7 feet tall.
Well, Stallone's only like 4'6", right?
Yeah. Stallone, the height doesn't matter. He's of average height, but it doesn't matter. Right. That guy fills a room.
Like that. Like, how do you split up or like schedule your time when you're working on stuff? Like, do you like have days where you only focus on novel writing, and then other days where you only focus on comics, or does it depend on your deadlines and stuff?
If it's novels, the whole week is the novel. And if I can carve out a whole month for a novel, that's the best. With the comics, it's like the colorist is sending me the stuff from Arctoons. Yeah. So I know how far ahead I am. I'm like, okay, this guy's catching up. I'll spend a few days to pull ahead of him. I mean, recently on Silenzioso, they snuck up on me. They weren't sending me the pages. And it's like, hey, he hasn't had anything to do. And like, to me, that's like red alert. That's like DEFCON 4. It's like, oh my God, an artist is waiting for me. I cannot have this, And so if it's Sunday afternoon, I'll sit down and at least give them something to get started on. So it's just a matter of staying ahead. And with Arctoons, it's been pretty easy for me, because I know where I'm going.
You still seem to have time to watch at least one movie a day.
I try.
Have you seen Let Him Go, starring Kevin Costner and Diane Lane?
Yes. That was a neat movie.
Blew me away.
Yeah, I like everything Costner's done in the last few years. I was never that big a fan. The last few years, I've grown to appreciate him more. But tough story. Yeah,
and one thing that I found as I get older is I can't really enjoy an entertainment unless I believe it could actually happen. Yeah. And that applies to science fiction and fantasy too, because when I watch Alien or Aliens, I believe it totally. They get every detail right. I believe it could actually happen, but a number of programs like Nobody starring Bob Odenkirk, did you see that?
Yeah.
And at the end, they're mowing down thousands of nameless, faceless assassins, and there's not a cop to be seen. And they lose me at that point. Yeah, it's fun up to a point, but it has to convince the reader that this is a real story. That's how you get respect, by showing something you believe could actually happen. Of course, it has to be witty and moving and all that too, but for the most part, you don't want to puncture that illusion of reality or suspension of disbelief.
Well, Nobody is a great example of it, because it starts out in a real world with a real reality that we can relate to, and then it goes off the rails. I mean, when the dad shows up and he's great at killing people, and
ridiculous.
It's like this is not what you told me this was going to be. I wanted this I wanted this realistic world you introduced in the first act to be consistent throughout. Yeah. I mean, at the end of Breaking Bad, he's not a ninja. He's still a high school teacher who's willing to kill people.
One of the most remarkable series of all time. Because
remarkable as it ever got on the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of another one, Narcos on Netflix, which I've watched every episode, and it's just fascinating because not only does it convince you it's real, it's all based on reality, and they follow that pretty faithfully. And it's also interesting. You never got the impression they were vamping.
No. And it's also apolitical. Everybody comes under fire on that show. The failures of all the governments, no matter who was in charge, get reamed. It's and I think it seems like a very honest, from everything I've read about that era, it seems very honest. I mean, when you're watching the show and you're like, whoa, I remember reading about that in the newspaper. I remember seeing that on television.
Oh yeah, and they use real TV clips too. And I mean, they'll cut to President Clinton talking about the problem or whatever. Hey, what do you think of Scott Adkins as the Punisher?
I'm okay. I'm okay with anybody. I like I said, I don't like playing the casting game,
right?
Because I remember when they cast Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and the fans are like, he can't be Wolverine. He's too tall. He's too this. The movie comes out, and they're like, we love Hugh Jackman, and no one else could be Wolverine.
Yeah,
that was like Michael Keaton too with Batman.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, Robert De Niro played Al Capone. I mean, Robert De Niro is like a midget, but he played Al Capone. So,
Have you seen this new Damnation Alley? Oh no! Nightmare Alley.
I like don't want to see it.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to see it because it's such a great story. I read the book. I saw the original with Tyrone Power, which is one of the greatest Maw movies ever made. It's just brilliant. Yeah. And this one's getting mixed reports, but Guillermo is always at least entertaining, I think. I mean, he knows how to frame a shot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just think he's I don't know. He goes fanboy on some material. I'm just not. There's some movies. It's like, leave it alone. Don't touch this movie. And Nightmare Alley was such a. I mean, can you imagine how shocking that film was to audiences at the time? And it's still shocking now. I mean, the power is still there. I can't imagine what that was like to see in a theater at the time. People must have been freaked out.
Well, I have high hopes because we both love noir.
Yeah.
And we wish that Hollywood produced more quality noir. And
I wish they understood what it was.
Yeah, I do too. But I will name two films where they did get it. And one is Chinatown, and the other is L.A. Confidential.
Yeah.
And in L.A. Confidential, they had the book to fall back on because, I mean, Elroy is nothing if not noir. The funny thing about Elroy is I think he's written himself into a corner.
Yeah.
The last couple of books of his were just bewildering. They were like the book of random numbers, trying to keep up with the plot.
Yeah. He lost me. I forget what the last one I read. I couldn't even finish it.
It's a shame.
But it is. But I mean, look what he gave us.
Right.
You can't do that all the time. You know, it's like James M. Cain. You read his later novels, and it's like, what the hell, But apparently, he had some sort of brain condition.
Well, Robert R. McCammon, who's one of my favorite authors, then he started doing these period pieces set in the 19th century or the 18th century about American mystic ghost hunter or something. Have you read any McCammon?
Oh yeah, early stuff, Boy's Life and that stuff. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get it. I guess these are passion projects that he had to get out. But for me, when he writes in this stilted 18th century style, I don't go for that.
Well, some guys can switch hats like that. Some guys can't. I mean, look at Michael Crichton. He could do that.
Yeah.
He could write in that, almost movie treatment shotgun style and then do something like, Eaters of the Dead or Great Train Robbery. And it's perfectly in period. And, without missing a step. Right. But some people can't do it. I mean, we all fear as writers that we're going to go up our own butthole or something. It's like, I find this interesting, but nobody else does. It's like that chapter of Moby Dick that everybody skips,
Or that chapter in Atlas Shrugged where John Galt is giving his speech.
Yeah.
It's 100 pages long. The speech is 100 pages long. What? I like what she has to say, but I don't like the way that she says it.
Yeah.
So that defied your sense of believability, Mike, with the 100 pages.
It wasn't that. It's that, again, I can't stress this. If you're trying to sell a book, a novel, or a movie, your number one goal is to entertain. Because if you're not going to keep the reader enthralled, if the reader does not care what happens next, because they do not care about the protagonist or the plot, and they don't connect with that, then you failed. I had a great writing teacher. His name was Jerry McNeely, and he was head writer for Marcus Welby, MD. And he said, you make them laugh a little bit, you make them cry a little bit, you scare the hell out of them, and that's entertainment.
Yeah.
For a succinct description of what you should be doing, I can't think of anything better.
Yeah. Somebody, I frequently get asked, how do you get characters established and up so quickly and in action? And I said, it comes from my intense fear of boring people.
Yeah, that's good.
So I don't, it's seriously, I'm thinking, okay, I've described too much about this character. It's time for something to happen. So let's take out some of this description and get this guy, punching and kicking his way into your heart.
Do you outline?
No, you always ask me this. No, I don't. I might do a chapter breakdown on something, but generally I wing it.
JQs.
It's terrible advice. It's terrible advice for writers. It's like
because I've been outlining for the last 10 years or so. I'm a big believer in it. But I think I'm going to wing the next one because I got a couple of good ideas. But you know who else didn't outline? It was Elmore Leonard.
Yeah, and obviously Raymond Chandler. It's like I think Raymond Chandler changed his mind on his novel every day when he woke up. It's like I think I'll do this now, But who cares? The guy couldn't plot to save his life, but who cares? But yeah, Elmore Leonard, I can see it, and you can see in his failures where it didn't work. You did not catch the magic, but when he did catch the magic, like holy crap, he was standing on the third rail. Yeah, I'm a big scene kind of guy, which is how Chandler worked. I've got these 3 big scenes, and how do I string them together into something that seems like a story?
All right. That's going to help me because I'm thinking of this new novel, and I know I have an idea for it, and I was going to start outlining it and making notes. I might just wing it.
Yeah, my next Levon novel, I've got this one scene with this one reveal, and it's so cool. The whole novel's can be based around that one scene. Because the reveal is like, holy shit, and I just want to write a novel so that I can use that scene.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. But where are you going to stick the 100-page speech in?
There is no 100-page speech there, nor should there be.
I don't think Levon's ever said 100 words in a row.
I was wondering how you were doing that with the Arcaven stuff. If you were plotting or just kind of going along.
Yeah, the Arcaven stuff. Silenzioso, which is a novel about a school for assassins set in a fantasy world version of Renaissance Europe.
Yeah.
That is totally seat of my pants.
Yeah.
I'm taking the Harry Potter approach to it and just winging it. I don't know where the hell that story's going, which I probably shouldn't admit to readers, but I don't. But something like My Sister Suprema, I know every step of the way. I know I could write that for the next 10 years. I know exactly where I'm going.
Well, and that's what good writers do. Like they know the story, they know the style and tone. So then so you can switch like that.
Yeah.
And follow however you feel like it needs to go.
Yeah, they all demand different approaches. I mean, I'm struggling with a Western novel right now, but I know in the end everything is resolved through violence.
Right.
So I know ultimately where I'm going. It's how do I get there?
A lot of readers don't like to hear that, but it's really okay when it's a professional that's doing it.
Well, it's like I remember one time we killed a character in the Batman franchise, and readers were upset. And I was on a message board, and I said, "Well, her story was over. We didn't need her anymore." And it was like I told them, "There's no Santa Claus." It's like, but that's how we have to think. I mean, we could have dragged this character through the franchise another 5 years, but she would have been uninteresting. She was spent as a character.
Book coming out.
Yeah, Levon's Prey.
Levon's Prey. And you have your own YouTube channel, right? Where people can see
it's
your
just
stuff?
Chuck Dixon. You just go there, and there's a weekly Ask Chuck Dixon episode. There's a new one up today.
Yeah.
So.
Which is really good. And he has definitely follow him on social media. Mostly you're mainly on Facebook, or are you?
Mainly on Facebook, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have accounts at Instagram and stuff like that, but I'm not even really sure.
Yeah. And definitely check out the stuff he's doing on arcaven.com or ArcTunes. Do they have an app or anything for that?
They're working on the phone app, but you can read it on your phone. If you have an internet connection, it works the same way. But yeah, they're working on an app. But you can read it on any device, and the resolution is so good. Yeah. It's much better than other digital comics. You can read it on your big screen in your living room. It's crystal clear.
Wow. There's something cool about it, being able to go panel by panel without seeing what's coming on the next page.
Yeah. Every panel's a page turn panel now.
Yeah. Which is cool. I mean, I like, especially for when there's a gunshot or a big explosion or something, it really hits pretty good.
Well, I remember when we first started discussing this, and Vox was saying, well, every weekly episode has to end with a panel that makes you want to read the next episode. And I said, you're telling me this? I said, I've been 35 years writing every single page makes you want to turn to the next page.
Right.
That's the secret, Vox.
Yep. And on that note, thank you, sir.
Thank you. I enjoyed this. This was a good discussion.
We'll be back.
Yeah. Maybe.
Hi, this is Sean Hainsworth. I saw Star Wars when I was 11 and it changed my life. My friends and I started making Super 8 science fiction films in the basement. Here I am in a clip from our space adventure, Battle in Outer Space, complete with ski goggles. During that time, the old Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon serials from the 1930s and 40s were still on television, and the new Buck Rogers looked like this.
Someone isn't gonna like that.
I went on to study film in college, made a number of independent documentaries, and I've written several screenplays. For my day job, I work in computer science in the fields of machine learning and artificial intelligence. The idea for the Killing Machine started when I was watching a lot of samurai movies from the 1950s and 60s. The original concept was that Richter was a masterless samurai, a robotic warrior lost during battle who wandered the galaxy in search of purpose. I continued to develop this idea over the years, eventually replacing the samurai-inspired narrative with the story of the Hand of God. There are other references to my film background, particularly in the opening scene, which was inspired by the opening scene of Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West. I will be posting another video where I discuss Sergio Leone and this opening scene in more detail. I originally developed the idea as a partially completed novel, and then as a screenplay, which has placed in several screenplay competitions. However, seeing the story come to life under the inspired work of Michel Fortin has been a real pleasure, and I now believe that this story was always intended to be a comic book.
All right, so that was a really cool video. I loved all of the background stuff where you talked about making films growing up, and I can still remember standing in a huge line for Star Wars when it originally came out and everything too. So I can definitely relate to that stuff. Okay, first we have to say, okay, tell us a little bit about your day job your day job stuff, and does any of it? Are there any elements of it that inform this story?
Yeah. So I do a lot of what I do is natural language processing. So how computers process language. And I think what's really interesting is there's been this explosion of artificial intelligence. Right. And it came out of a direction I don't think anyone anticipated. Back in the 90s, we were trying to teach computers by teaching them all of the rules for things. And I don't know if you remember the old Apple Newton that was supposed to be able to read your handwriting. And they were trying to teach it all these rules about it. You know, a J has a curve at the bottom and whatever. And it did not work at all, or it didn't work very well. And the big change in language processing and image recognition was not teaching the computer all these rules, but giving the computer a lot of examples and saying, this is a J, this is a J, this is a J, this is a J, this is not a J. You pass millions of those examples through a neural network, and the computer just learns. We don't have to teach it. It actually learns by just saying, I understand all of these things are J's and all of these things are I's. And you don't have to teach me what the difference is. I'm going to figure it out just by looking at a whole bunch of them. And that has just opened the door for both image recognition and language processing. Now the newest models, Google had a language model that was trained on 2 billion documents. And now Microsoft has a model that trained on 17 billion documents. So it's really just about throwing as much as you can at the computer, labeling it, telling the computer what it is, and the computer figures it out. And so I think that's really interesting. If you think about an autonomous robot, if you think about social interactions or how that robot communicates, it wouldn't necessarily be teaching the robot about what you say in this situation. It would simply be training the robot on all kinds of conversations and letting that neural network adapt on the fly. So I think, yeah, we're in a really interesting phase for artificial intelligence. And the technology is exploding, and we use it every day on our phones. You know, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, kind of like what you're saying. They would be for their learning. It seems like they would be like the ultimate people watchers, where they're just like watching everybody do everything, and the way that the people are interacting, and the way that they're like every aspect of it, from the way that they're holding themselves to like whatever to and that they would just be taking all of that in.
What's really cool is that as humans, our superpower is that we are pattern recognizers. That is what we do better than anything else. And teaching computers to do that is hard. Like any 3-year-old can identify their letters, even if they're handwritten or scrawled, or but a computer can't. It's really hard. That pattern recognition is very hard, and that's kind of, once again, something new in the sense of what we thought of our intellectual superpower was all this rationality. A lot of it comes down to pattern recognition. And so, yeah, being a super observer and then being able to recognize those patterns and react to those patterns appropriately, that's where a lot of it's at.
I did think it was really interesting when you talk about the samurai aspect and then connecting that with the robots and stuff. Is that I know you said that was one of the original inspirations. Is that still kind of a part of the Killing Machine now?
Yeah. So I think what's interesting is it's really a mix of this, kind of a thought-driven science fiction. What is the nature of life, right? And where did life in the universe come from? Right, these kind of large questions that we can never answer, but are fascinating to speculate on. And so this, the Hand of God story is about finding this artifact, which appears to be the source of the chemical compounds, the amino acids, other things that were responsible for life on the Earth. And I will get to the samurai question.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
But one of the things that inspired me on that was this idea, this theory that maybe the chemical compounds of life were delivered to the Earth via an asteroid or via some object from outer space. So if you start thinking about where did life come from? Is it just random, these chemical compounds? Was it, one interpretation of the Hand of God is just like this galactic spore that, it landed in certain places, and if conditions were favorable, then life would form. But, there's also a part of us that thinks about things being divinely inspired, or there being some kind of intelligence behind it. So was this object planted here? Was it planted here by a divine power? Was it planted here by an alien race? Right. So there's a lot of those ideas going on. And then if you think about the robot, well, when robots can do all the things that we can do and act the way we do, what separates us from them? What is life? What is that spark of life? What is that soul, and where does it come from? So that's one aspect of it, is it's kind of thoughtful and introspective. But on the other hand, I wanted to make it action-packed. I wanted to make it fun. And the original idea for the story, was really, I watched a lot of samurai movies, and I can highly recommend just doing the deep dive on samurai movies from the 50s and 60s, because there's so many of them. But one of the, the major themes is this idea of a masterless samurai, this fighting warrior whose lord is defeated and who has no castle and no mission, is just sort of wandering around. The classic film being Kurosawa's Yojimbo. And so that was, and actually, just brief digression, what I love about Yojimbo is that the main character, the Toshiro Mifune character, is completely amoral at the beginning. And I don't mean immoral, I mean amoral. He has no morality. And he simply acts in his own self-interest. And the progression of that character during the film is that he moves from being an amoral character to being, sort of a moral character, a rootless samurai who finds a purpose. And so the original idea for Richter was that he was this robotic warrior that was, detached from his, whose army was defeated. He was detached and was simply left homeless, wandering the universe like a masterless samurai,
Right.
looking for purpose. So yeah, there's still a lot of that in the narrative. That was before I sort of decided to marry that with the hand of God idea. But there's a lot of samurai movie inspiration in there, and this idea of a warrior who no longer necessarily needs to take orders and has to find their own path and their own, make their own moral decisions. And that's where we're going with Richter.
I mean, anybody that knows sci-fi, I mean, the best sci-fi are the ones that, even if they don't clearly upfront like ask the big question, but they some way or another they're actually wrestling with some big idea or some big thing. I mean, that's one of the things that makes science fiction great. So I mean, like I really enjoy stuff like that, especially, and I know a lot of science fiction fans that do.
Yeah, I think that's what's special about sci-fi. I mean, a lot of these genres allow us to, just throw open the doors of creativity and imagine, monsters or fantasy worlds. But science fiction often really gets at those big questions: the nature of life, the nature of the universe, the nature of time. And I think that's so special about the genre to me. And the original Star Trek was great in that regard. I mean, Roddenberry really wanted to ask those big questions about humanity and our place in the universe. And, I definitely grew up watching a whole lot of Captain Kirk. So,
yeah,
that was ingrained in me pretty early.
So I'm curious about like your universe or whatever. Like, is this a colonized solar system, or like what is your universe and like your time period that this story is set in?
Yeah, so it's a kind of not too distant future. 2073 is the discovery of the hand of God. So definitely in the future, but not so far in the future as to seem remote.
Right.
And no, it's not a colonized universe. What the sort of twist on the story, and a lot of this, you guys are getting a lot of preview because a lot of this will come out in issue 2 and issue 3. We're going to go more into the backstory, but the idea of the hand of God is not only do they realize that it's responsible for some of the chemical, basis of life on Earth, but it's also kind of, flashing, pulsing in this complicated pattern. And when that's decoded, they actually realize that is providing a signal for a galactic coordinate. And at that galactic coordinate, there's a portal to another galaxy. So in some way, this hand of God is related to another part of the universe, which leads more toward the idea of not a random universe, that this thing was planted, right? And so, we explore, we go through this portal, and we discover, in another universe, an alien race with a similar object. And so the mystery deepens, right? Are these objects related? Do they lead us on a pattern that might lead us to another portal? But of course, humanity, there's a lot of takes on it. There's this idea that we should have this, we should take this. This is, if this is the divinity of our existence, we need to own it and understand it, and we should take it from the alien race. And so that's what leads to a lot of the conflict and the idea of a crusade, because it's this religious mission to possess this religious artifact, and that's what leads us in conflict. So it's really two races, the human race and this alien race called the Tal, and the battle between them over this object and the meaning of this object. I try to spend a lot of time on character development. So in addition to Richter, the main human character is named Lieutenant Coney, and they have this kind of great relationship that in some ways was inspired, I mentioned the Kickstarter, by the C.S. Forrester books about Horatio Hornblower, and not science fiction, but if you've never read them, they're tremendous books. So she's a really interesting character who has had to overcome a lot of obstacles in her life, and in a way is going to become sort of the moral center of the story, because there are a lot of questions of morality. So aside from a lot of the cool sci-fi stuff and the imagery that Michelle is coming up with, what I'm really hoping is that this is a really satisfying story that's well thought out from a plot perspective, very action-packed, exciting, not going to fall too far into philosophy without,
Right.
without some butt kicking and some
Yeah.
laser battles, but well-developed characters and hopefully something that's really satisfying. That's my hope.
Are there any cool perks or anything that you have on the Kickstarter? Or?
Oh yeah. So I think we have one of the coolest perks that I'll get to in a second, but we've got some early bird specials. So I've got this really nice SHP logo that you see behind me.
Right.
Hardbound, notebook journal with a, nice elastic. That's going to be free with a number of the tiers. But the cool thing is what we're calling the Guy Fleegman. Guy Fleegman's the Sam Rockwell character from Galaxy Quest, who, is convinced that he doesn't have a name because he's the crewman who dies on the planet to show the situation is serious. He doesn't even have a last name. So what we're offering at that level is, and there's a limited number of them, is we will draw your face onto one of the characters who dies, on the planet randomly. And we'll send you a signed, finished page of your death sequence. So you get to have a death cameo, which I think is really cool. But a lot of other one interesting perk we have is hop on a phone call with me and we can talk about AI and we can talk about samurai movies, we can talk about spaghetti westerns, and we can talk about comic book ideas or whatever. So I don't know if anyone wants to talk to me, but that might be a fun perk. I love to talk to people and hear from people who are reading the story, get to know people at cons or wherever. So I hope that's a perk people take advantage of. But yeah, there's a lot of nice stuff out there. We have a behind the scenes booklet where I go into a lot of the details, show a lot of the artwork in process, some of the sketches and notes and how we visualize things and some of the influences of the different films that went into it. So I think a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I think it's great. You're letting people be a red shirt.
Yeah, exactly. And join at any level. I mean, it's just great to have support, and I really hope this story, is going to be one that your viewers want to follow. I really hope that this can be, comic book people, are excited for issue 2 because they want to find out what happens next.
Right. Yeah. No. And I'll bring this up because, and I've said it before, but I've had people like apologize, like if they could only pledge at like the $5 level. It's like, don't apologize. Like every little bit helps. And it's like, and you don't know. And that was the thing that I told a lot of people too, is like, you don't know how much it helps, like just adding every person to how many supporters you have. Like, and it helps all of the algorithms and everything else. Like every little bit of anything that you do helps. And even if you are broke, like a lot of people after the holidays and with the difficult economy, but you like the idea, it's like share it on social media. Share it in real life. You can just anything you can do, like it helps. And don't feel bad if all you can do is like $5 or $10 or whatever,
or $1. We've got the tip jar.
Yeah,
just, drop some change in the tip jar.
So anyways, I will let you go, but thank you for being on, and definitely check out The Killing Machine.
Thank you so much.